read most of chapter 4 of Call It Courage last time. We're going to go ahead and continue the chapter. Mafatu had been fishing when he dropped his knife into the ocean. He must get his knife, but the reef wall looked dark and forbidding in the fading light. Its black holes were the home of the giant feke, the octopus. The boy drew back in sudden panic. He had never dived as deep as this. It might be even deeper than he thought, for the clarity of the water confused all scale of distance. The knife looked so very near, and yet there it lay, gleaming palely. The boy gazed down at it with longing. He remembered the morning he had found the whale's skeleton, the first one he had ever seen. Surely Maui, god of the fishermen, had sent the whale there to die for Mafatu's use. The long hours that had gone into the making of the knife, it had saved Uri's life too. And now Uri, in the bow of the canoe, was looking at his master with eyes so puzzled and true. Mafatu drew a deep breath. How could he abandon his knife? Would Maui, the thought chilled him, think him a coward? Was he still Mafatu, the boy who was afraid? He leaped to his feet, gave a brave hitch to his pareu. Then he was overside in the water. He clung for a moment to the gunwale, breathing deeply. Remember, the gunwale is the upper edge of the boat. So he's holding onto the edge of the boat. Inhaling, then releasing the air in a long-drawn whistle, he prepared his lungs for the pressure of the depths. Many times he had seen the pearl divers do it. In the canoe lay a coral weight fastened to a length of sennit. Mafatu took this weight and held the cord in his toes. With a final deep breath, he descended feet first, allowing the weight to pull him downward. At about 20 feet, he released the weight, turned over, and swam for the bottom. Here the water was cool and green. The sunlight filtered from above in long, oblique bands. Painted fishes fled before him. He saw a giant pahua, a clamshell, 5 feet across and taller than he, its open lips waiting to snap shut upon fish or man. Green fronds waved gently as if in some submarine wind. A shadow moved above the boy's head as he glanced upward in alarm. Only a sand shark cruising harmlessly. An eel, like a cold, waving ribbon, touched his leg and was gone. Okay, lovely imagery right there. The author's doing a great job of describing the scene to us. The knife, there it lay. How sharp and bright it looked. Now the boy's hands were upon it. He seized it and sprang upward toward the light. In that second, a whiplash shot out from a cavern at his back, a lash like a length of rubber hose. The boy caught the flash of vacuum cups that lined its undersurface. Panic stabbed him. The feke, the octopus. Another lash whipped forth and encircled his waist. It drew taut. Then the octopus came forth from its den to face and kill its prey. Mafatu saw a purplish globe of body, eyes baleful and fixed as fate. A parrot mouth, cruel and beaked, that worked and wobbled. Another whiplash encircled the boy's leg. The knife! Desperately, Mafatu stabbed for one of the eyes. Then darkness clouded the water as the octopus siphoned out his venom. There in submarine gloom, a boy fought for his life with the most dreaded monster of the deep. He could feel the sucking pressure of those terrible tentacles. His wind was almost gone. Blindly, Mafatu stabbed again, this time for the other eye. The blow, so wildly driven, went true. The terrible grip relaxed, slacked. The tentacles grew limp. Then Mafatu was springing upward, drawn up toward light and air and life. When he reached the canoe, he had hardly enough strength to cling to the gunwale. But cling he did, his breath coming in tearing gasps. Uri, beside him, dashed from one end of the canoe to the other, crying piteously. Slowly, strength returned to the boy's limbs, warmth to his chilled soul. He dragged himself into the canoe and collapsed on the floor. He lay there, as in a trance, for what seemed an eternity. The sun had set. Dusk was rising from the surface of the sea. Mafatu struggled upright and peered cautiously over the side of the canoe. The inky water had cleared. Down there, 40 feet below, the octopus lay like a broken shadow. The white cups of its tentacles gleamed dully in the watery gloom. With shark line and hook, the boy fished up the Fikei's body. As he dragged it into the canoe, one of the tentacles brushed his ankle. Its touch was clammy and of a deathly chill. Mafatu shuddered and shrank away. He had eaten squid and small octopi ever since he was born, but he knew that he could not have touched a mouthful of this monster. He raised his spear and plunged it again and again into the body of his foe, shouting aloud a savage paean of triumph. 1,000 years of warrior heritage sounded in his cry. Once more, Maui had protected him. What to do with the Fikei? The boy decided that he would cut off the tentacles. They would dry and shrink, but they would still be of a prodigious size, and the people of Hikueru would say, "See, Mafatu killed the Fikei, single-handed. Away to away!" Dusk, almost in an instant, deepened into night. As Mafatu turned the nose of his canoe toward shore, the first stars were appearing, bright and close and friendly. There was the Southern Cross, pointing toward the end of the world. The lagoon was a black mirror, dusted with starshine. Far below, in the dark waters, illuminated fishes moved and had their being. Meteors, galaxies, constellations under the sea. The boy saw a line of light, narrow as a blade, as the rare pala flashed away in its everlasting quest. A sand shark, phosphorescent ghost, darted after the pala, seized it in a swirl of luminous mist. The mist faded slowly. It was blood. Mysterious life forces were completing their cycle in those dark depths, even as on the earth and in the air above. This sea, no more to be feared than earth or air, only another element for man to conquer. And he, Mafatu, had killed the Fikei. Away, te away! As he dipped his paddle with a swinging rhythm, the rhythm of his thoughts swung in unison. Tomorrow I shall start home. Tomorrow, tomorrow. Aya! The very thought of it set him aquiver. Tomorrow, tomorrow. He had been here so long. He dragged the canoe up on the beach, placed the logs under the curving stem so that he might launch it easily on the morrow. He would never need to climb the high plateau to the lookout again. Let the eaters of men come. As Mafatu waited for his supper to cook, he set about preparing for his homeward journey. He would start at daybreak with the ebbing tide. He would be ready. He filled bamboo containers with fresh water, sealed them with leaves that were gummed into place, watertight and secure. Then he stored them carefully in the canoe. He prepared a poi of bananas and sealed it, likewise, into containers. There it would ferment and sour and become delicious to the taste. Then he picked a score or more of green drinking nuts and flung them into the canoe. And as he trotted back and forth across the beach, and his supper streamed on the fire, one thought alone, like an insistent drum beat, echoed in the boy's heart. Tomorrow I shall start home. Tomorrow, tomorrow. Never again need he hang his head before his people. He had fought the sea for life and won. He had sustained himself by his own wits and skill. He had faced loneliness and danger and death, if not without flinching, at least with courage. He had been sometimes deeply afraid, but he had faced fear and faced it down. Surely that could be called courage. When he lay down to sleep that night, there was a profound thankfulness in his heart. "Te Vananui," he whispered, "my father, I want you to be proud of me." He fell into a heavy, dreamless sleep. Okay, one of the main conflicts in this story was that Mafatu had the irony of being called Braveheart or Stoutheart, but he has struggled with finding courage. And this, near the close of this chapter, it's showing how he feels that he has overcome that conflict. So that's a major, major turning point. Before dawn, he was awakened by a sound of measured booming, like the beating of a supernatural drum. Thump, 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 thump. It rose above the thunder of the reef, solemn and majestic, filling the night with thunder. Instantly awake, listening with every sense, Mafatu sat upright on the mats. Far out on the reef, the seas burst and shot upward like sheeted ghosts in the moonlight. There it came again. thump, 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 steady as a pulse beating in the heart of darkness. And then Mafatu knew the eaters of men had come. All right, that closes our chapter. Last time we wrote a summary of the first part of the chapter. Now we're going to write a summary for this last part of the chapter. So get your blue papers ready to go. And for this summary, we're just writing it for pages 74 through 79. So here in our blue sheet, we're on the 7th row right here. Make sure I've got this centered so you can see it. We're on the 7th row, and we're going to write that it's for pages. We're going to write it's chapter 4, pages 74 through 79 is what we're writing for this summary. And then we're going to go over here to this summary section. Make sure to get this centered here. So you should already have a summary written above. We're right here on this section here. Okay. As Mafatu retrieves his knife. So as Mafatu retrieves his knife, comma, he is attacked by an octopus. And he calls this the feke in his native tongue. So I'm going to go ahead in parentheses and call it that, spelled F-E-K-E with an accent over the last E. As Mafatu retrieves his knife, he is attacked by an octopus, and then in parentheses, feke, which he manages to kill. Comma, which he manages to kill, and Mafatu recognizes that he has found his courage. Okay, so what we have so far is as Mafatu retrieves his knife, comma, he is attacked by an octopus, in parentheses, feke, which he manages to kill, comma, and Mafatu recognizes that he has found his courage. Then let's continue with one more sentence. Back on the island, comma, back on the island before dawn of the day he plans to return. So back on the island, comma, before dawn of the day he plans to return to Hikueru, he is awakened by the drums of the eaters of men. I'm trying to write small to fit that in. The eaters of men. I can just barely kind of squeeze that in a little off to the side. Okay, let me read the entire summary here. As Mafatu retrieves his knife, he is attacked by an octopus, feke, which he manages to kill, and Mafatu recognizes that he has found his courage. In other words, he's ready to return back to Hikueru. Back on the island, before dawn of the day he plans to return to Hikueru, he is awakened by drums of the eaters of men. All right. Okay, we'll continue with the last chapter next time.